Hello, and welcome to Guidance for Better Life. I want to share something today that came up in the last retreat we had just about a week ago. Even with the virus, we're finding safe ways. We spread out, we open all the windows, we have masks on, we don't do food and all that. So we found a way we get a small group of people together up here at the Guidance for Better Life Retreat Center. We're very careful. But something came up with one of my students this last retreat, something he struggled with for years, and it finally became clear to us all. He had like a switch that went off, and see if I can explain this. He's writing a book right now, but other times he's written letters and done other things. And he's very smart. He writes beautifully his letters, which we debrief and we share. My disciples write letters often about their experiences, and we discuss them, and sometimes I give them a little more information. And we share ideas and stuff among us. But so he's a good writer, and he's writing a book right now. We have 14 books out. He's writing one, and I'm helping him also on the inner as prophet. But he wrote the first half, and a few months ago, we gave him some input. He wanted a little feedback from his friends, about 50 of us. So we all got a copy, read it, and he thought the feedback was great. So he fixed it up. Then he showed us at a later retreat some of his changes. This is roughly the first half he felt, the number of words. And it was beautiful. And I was so excited to see the rest of it. He just finished it recently, a few weeks ago, and we read it. And it was a disaster, at least in our view. And I think his view now also. I think all of us were just kind of horrified. It took a turn in a very negative way. And I've seen this happen to this individual. He's a beautiful soul 3 times in the last 20 or so years, where he'll do something and he's doing wonderful. I'll get to the point where I think this can help. I hope you and my audience. He was doing wonderful. He was doing some facilitations for people up in New York, sharing some spiritual truth, and it was stunning. And then it went kind of a disaster. So the point is, what is this switch where, and maybe somebody can relate, maybe not. You're doing really well, or maybe you're not doing well, but he was doing well, so we'll assume that. And then all of a sudden, kind of things run off the rails. It just goes off. And we're trying to figure out what is the switch that goes off for this person. And I'm trying to get to the point here that might help you all. And I think we found out what it was this weekend more clearly than we've ever seen it before. Both times, these 2 times I mentioned when he was doing facilitation in New York, helping people, doing some guided contemplations, and then while he's writing this book, it started out beautifully and then it went run aground. Both times when it started out beautifully, he got a lot of compliments. I compliment him a lot, and as his teacher, that really seems to touch him quite a bit, maybe a little too much. And my other students were complimenting him how well he was doing. And then something shifted, his focus shifted. Instead of putting all his energy on what he was doing up in New York, helping some folks, or all his energy in writing the best book he could write, which he had been doing, after he received the compliments, it basically went to his head. And as a child, we don't need to go back too far, he didn't get a whole lot of compliments of his child, contrary. So he doesn't really know how to handle compliments. And it literally makes him almost giddy. It really goes to head. And what I think we found out, and this might be something that benefits you all, and that's why I'm doing this video. I hope to help you, some of you in my YouTube audience, or maybe you can help some of your friends. His focus stopped. He stopped putting his focus on the writing or the facilitation in New York after the compliment because it went to his head. He focused on wanting to get more compliments. And it was subtle, and we didn't know that, and he didn't know that. And I think we figured this out. He basically was more interested in approval, almost like an approval addiction. He kind of forgot he got approval, and he got the beautiful positive feedback because he put all his focus in doing a good job on what he was doing. And this could apply to whatever you're doing in life. I'm just giving an example recent example. But you could be doing anything, making woodworking things, writing, singing, whatever you're doing, or a song, or driving a bus, whatever you're doing, I suppose, out there. If you have this same switch my student had, and still has, I guess, where you get a compliment and it shifts your focus, or you might just be where you're always focusing where he shifts. At least my student normally focuses on finishing a job, and he focuses his energy on doing a good job. Some of you may not do that. You might always focus on getting approval from people, or always a pat on the back, or wanting to be liked. Some call it approval addiction. Well, at least my student normally focuses on his energy and puts his energy into doing whatever he's working on. His music, his teaching, he's a professor, whatever he's doing, he normally does that. But he has a switch, and at least he does good most of the time. And when he got these compliments, it went to his head, and then instead of focusing all his energy on doing a good job, most of his energy went to try to get, basically to impress me and the other students, and his energy went to impressing and getting more approval and more compliments. So what happens if you have this much focus to put on to a certain topic you're doing, a certain task, you have all this focus, this is all your focus. And after the switch went off and he got the compliment, I think he put that much focus on the writing, which he's working on, and this much. So out of this much, most of it was on making sure that he got more compliments. So if he put 80% on trying to get more approval from the class and from myself as teacher, how much did he have for the actual job? He only had 20%. These are rough numbers. So instead of 100% on the task, whatever it may be, and you get to do a good job, most people are going to like it. But he shifted his focus, put maybe 20% on his writing and 80% on how to impress us. And he did impress us. And I've seen this throughout the years when my students try to impress. They do, but it's always the opposite. He did a very poor job. So the point here is, whether you have this switch or you don't, if you're so worried in life about what people think about you, or if your boss or somebody be pleased with the job, and we all want to be liked, and you hope that they're pleased. But ironically, the more you focus on wanting to impress somebody, probably the more focus is on that, the less, like my student, instead of 100% focus on writing, maybe at 20% on writing and 80 on, wow, I sure hope I can impress my teacher and the other students. When you think about it, when you really focus on trying to impress somebody or get their approval, does that have any practical benefit for whatever task you're trying to do? If you're woodworking and you spend 80% and you're working with power tools, you spend 80% hoping they'll be really impressed with what you're doing and only 20% on the woodworking, you might lose a finger or something if you're around power tools. In other words, the pearl here is the way you can impress people, if that's your goal, is not to make it a goal. It's like going the opposite way, to put all your energy into doing the job and surrender whether they like it or not, whether your boss likes it or not. In most cases, if you put all your energy into the job, whatever the task may be, most likely the person that you hope will like it will probably like it. But when you spend a lot of energy that has no practical use, worrying or hoping somebody else will be really impressed with your work, and you put less of your focus and energy on actually doing the work, they will be impressed most likely, but in a negative way. They'll be disappointed that it didn't turn out very well. So this is kind of a long-winded way to get to a point that might be very helpful for a lot of you. We all like to be liked, but frankly, focusing on impressing people and hoping they'll really give you a compliment or really like what you've done, all that energy spent there is virtually worthless. I don't believe it has any value as far as actually doing the task. And if you can resist that temptation, you're also so much freer. Focus on the task, and if you get the attitude, if they like it, great. I hope they do. If they don't. You did the best you could, which you did if you put all your energy into it. They like it or they don't. But if you try to do something with the intent to impress, it usually backfires on you, because all that energy thinking about, boy, I hope they like it. Boy, I hope they like it. Hope the boss likes it. Hope people think it's great. That energy has no practical use at all in completing a particular task. So it's kind of long-winded way to get there. But if you can be less concerned about what people think, we all like to be liked. But if you can focus on the task and surrender the need or the worry about whether somebody likes it or doesn't, or will compliment or not, it's a little bit of an offshoot of approval addiction. You'll probably do a lot better job, and a higher probability the person or the group will like what you did, your task. And you probably enjoy the task better because you'll actually focus on it. And you get a lot of pressure off your shoulders. You'll be so much freer. I think when I learned this many years ago, to do the best I could and let the chips fall where they fall, if people like it, great. If they don't, well, too bad. I felt so much freedom. And this is a great way to maybe impress by not trying to impress, but also it's a tremendous amount of freedom and weight off your shoulders. Do the best you can, and if they like it, great. If they don't, you can't please everybody. So the less you keep trying and focus excessive energy on that, you'll be so much more free and have energy to actually do a good job on something. I hope this helps today. So maybe give it a try. Some of you might relate to this, some might not. But an awful lot of people are really addicted to what other people think. And that's quite a distraction in life. And if you can give that up, I think your life will you'll be a lot freer. And frankly, people actually be more impressed because you're actually doing a better job because you're putting all your energy onto the task. So thanks for listening, and I hope this helps a little bit today. Thank you.